Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome back to Cinesmack. We've taken the show back from the albino dictator. Just like the Allies in 1945, we stormed the beach, kicked him out of the chair, and we have the microphones back and our show back. So let's reintroduce our judges. Owner of Outpost 515 Productions, Mr. Samuel Pace-Twamy.
Hello.
Owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Mr. Tom Haggis.
Hey, everybody. I'm coming to you live from inside Donald Trump's hair. I've been abandoned here. I've started a farm. It's very impressive.
Nice.
I didn't know we were saying where we're coming from. I'm coming from Mr. Carson's anus. Dark in here. It's very dark.
I don't even know where to go with that, but
yeah, I suggest no one.
Owner of One Genome Short Productions, Mr. Gabriel Rowald.
I'm not going to even say where I'm coming from.
And joining us this month, our special guest is writer, director, visual effects extraordinaire, Mr. Trevor Zook.
Why, hello, everybody.
Where are you coming from, Trev?
I am coming to you straight from wonderful Waukee.
Oh, okay. See,
I don't know him. I don't know him.
All right. Well, I'm glad we're back. Let's go ahead and poke the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, executives and astronauts, welcome to the main event. Tonight, two of Hollywood's leading men try to survive being bitch-slapped by Mother Nature. Only one can be rescued. In the first quarter, from the year 2000, directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Tom Hanks, Helen Hunt, and Wilson. Castaway! In the second quarter, from 2015, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, and Jeff Bridges. The Martian!
Let's go ahead and move on to our first round, which is writing.
All right. So, I was talking to my family about these two movies, and I was explaining, my son's familiar with The Martian. I was explaining to him Castaway, and he goes, they're the same movie. You're looking at the same movie. And I go, well, that's what we do. We find two movies that are similar. And what's really neat about these two movies is that, yes, they're very similar, but there's a huge difference between Matt Damon and the entire population of Earth trying to get him home, and Tom Hanks, who has absolutely nobody coming to get him. Yeah. And I thought that was one of the really cool juxtapositions between these two movies and the two different ways to look at it. That, I mean, yes, what Matt Damon does is very admirable, but Tom Hanks, I mean, he does it on his own with no help at all. Although a little, tip of the hat to God at the end for sending him half a porta potty, which, God tends to do from time to time. So I thought that, that's story-wise, I think they're both really, really well done. There's, I saw The Martian. Well, I saw Castaway first, obviously, but then I watched The Martian recently, and I went back and watched Castaway a couple days ago. And there's really some interesting similar scenes. Obviously, in a survival movie like this, you're going to have that. Where does the food come from? Where's the water come from? And I think I liked the technical side of The Martian better. The way they approached it. I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that scene in Apollo 13 where the engineers gathered around and say, we got to get this round thing into this square thing. Mm-hmm. The Martian is for people who wanted the entire movie to be about that scene. And I was like,
well, and The Martian, actually, it gives you those space scenes in spades. Like The Martian, I don't know how many fucking times we need to see them cheering at Mission Control because that particular portion of the thing went well. It's like usually you get that once a movie and you got it like, and I like The Martian a lot. I thought it was good, but you got it like 6 times.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, they kept hitting you too with all of the bad things that happened too. I mean, every
Right.
time so much goes wrong. And I'm just going to jump into this real quick and then I'll just drop it, I swear, for the rest of the show. But I read the book first, and what happens to him in the book is way worse. I mean, there's a ton of shit that goes down, and he is even, more creative with his solutions in the book than he is in the movie. So, and I kind of crossed my arms. They changed the end of the movie, or the end of the story for the movie, to make it a little bit more, Hollywoody, and I didn't really like that. I just used the word Hollywoody, but I think
Copyright Tom Haggis.
that's right. That's mine. Hollywoody.com. I'm getting it. Somebody else talk while I book that domain.
So I remember that quote that you were referring to. That the scene from Apollo 13 is essentially the whole movie of The Martian. It's from a great web comic called XKCD. If anyone's into science and stuff, check it out. I'm going to post it into the chat here so we can link to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about these movies, especially Castaway, is that they followed kind of a philosophy of show, don't tell. And particularly with Castaway, there's not, after a certain point in the movie, there's not a lot of dialogue. You just see Tom Hanks' character doing things, trying to survive, and you don't need him to talk to explain what's going on. We can just see what's happening and see what his challenges are and see how he's facing them. And to me, I love that. That's one of my favorite things. Whenever I'm doing the 48, I have so badly wanted to do a 48-hour film that has no dialogue or minimal dialogue.
Well, we did that one. We did that one film for the National Challenge a few years ago, where we had like 2 lines of dialogue in the entire thing. Do you remember that? It was the Ludwig Experience.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, yeah, and I love that. I mean, that's my favorite thing, is to have to give the audience credit, to understand what's going on and not have to tell them through, the device of dialogue. Now, I think it's really important sometimes to have dialogue, and it's really nice when you have a movie that shows you mostly what's going on and then has really important dialogue in it. One of those movies to me was No Country for Old Men. There's large sequences of that movie where there's not even music, and just the sound and the scenery are telling the story, and they're not talking. They don't have to talk. You know exactly what's going on, or simply because you don't know exactly what's going on, it's more interesting that way.
Sure.
And then that movie was punctuated by really great sequences of dialogue. Like it wasn't a lot of dialogue, but it was really well done dialogue, and that makes me really happy. And I felt like you could have done that with The Martian, but they used the device of him telling the story into the cameras to kind of inject more of that dialogue and explain a little bit more of what was going on.
Well, that's because the book is essentially just his memoir, like it's his journal entries.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's explaining how he's doing things and how he's surviving. So I see why they did it that way, is because they were trying to honor the source material.
Sure. And I think it makes sense, and I don't think it necessarily detracts from the movie at all. It's obviously it's well written in both forms apparently. And I didn't find that device of talking into the cameras off-putting or distracting or too pandering to us, because it was kind of interesting to hear what his kind of inner thoughts were. And they got into that a little bit in Castaway too, at points where it was important to know what he was thinking, and we couldn't just tell that by watching what he was doing. They introduced Wilson.
Yep.
Right.
And then that gave us kind of a foil for hearing his inner thoughts. And I thought that was an appropriate and and believable and interesting way to introduce that into the whole.
Sure.
thing.
One thing I think about, I agree with you, Gabe, about Castaway when they get to a point of letting the audio kind of take over. Like 28-minute mark is a huge shift in this film, where you go from a very hectic, busy, fast opening to kind of nature takes over, and it kind of resets your palate in a way. What I was struck by is, going back to Castaway, the last half, even though they reference it kind of at the beginning and different points driving on the country roads and whatnot, the last half always felt weird to me. Like when he gets off and you have like a whole another half hour of, tying up loose ends, kind of feel a little bit more disjointed. And looking at the running times of them both, I think Martian's about 144 minutes and Castaway's 143. The structure of The Martian, even though I didn't like some of the writing elements of kind of the hokey mission control room stuff, and I enjoyed a lot of his stuff on the planet and whatnot, but to me it was a different watch. It felt like more of a complete story arc, whereas Castaway, to me, I think could have been trimmed at the end to make it a little bit more effective and kind of leave you with just him getting out and kind of that. Well, at least that's what I think in the writing part.
Yeah, Castaway seems much, much longer than The Martian, because of that, expansion of time that they use.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now that you mention it,
Although,
just thinking how powerful that ending would be, just when you see he gets out, and then it cuts.
I do feel like the pacing of The Martian was a little slow, and you could argue that both of them probably could have been trimmed a little. There were times when I'm like, okay, well, this is really cool and I'm enjoying it, but the pacing at times for The Martian was kind of like, okay, we're seeing this, beautiful Martian landscape, and we're seeing him driving long distances, and we're seeing him sleeping while he's charging a battery, and but I think it was appropriate, because just think of what that would be like. I mean, when the whole point of your, existence is to continue existing, and you have nothing else to do during the day but those things. I mean, that I feel like that would be drawn out, and I felt like that pacing was appropriate to the concept.
Sure. Well, and one thing though, did anyone else? I'm not sure how it was written in the script, but felt like the first at least 5 to 7 minutes of Castaway was a FedEx commercial. Like, I know it's a big part of the story, but like, it's like, Jesus Christ, like if this is like, that's smart. They got most of the budget for the movie from that. It was like, I get it. He works for FedEx, but
FedEx didn't pay them any money.
Really?
FedEx didn't pay them a single penny for it. I think they said they approached UPS first, and they turned them down because they didn't want one of their employees to be in peril. So FedEx did it, but they did it for free. So
much like the Reese's Pieces kind of thing, M&Ms from E.T.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, there it is. Yep.
So anyway, I'm a damn dirty liar. Going back to The Martian in the book, the book is really long and drawn out, and it doesn't really skip ahead years at a time like the movie does. So when I'm watching the movie, for me, it flew by. I'm like, holy crap, we're already like 2 years ahead of where we were. And his drive, the musical montage drive across the planet, that takes 4 months. They cover it in about 5 minutes in the movie, and they skip about 3 huge things that go wrong and almost kill him. So I don't know if maybe that's why The Martian to me seems like it really, really flew by. And Castaway, it feels longer, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't know if there's a whole lot I'd cut out, because I like the all of the ramifications of what would happen when you come back, and just that awkwardness with Helen Hunt. And I'm so glad they didn't wind up together, because that just would seem weird. And
then you almost feel like he went through this ordeal, and then he gets quote unquote saved and comes back, but it's a whole new ordeal. There are times when you feel like he's almost thinking, God, I wish I could go back to that island.
Yeah,
to a certain degree. It's hectic, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's lost the love of his life, and what God, what do I do now? I've been on this island forever, and so I kind of enjoyed that part too. And I do feel like it's a little bit kind of a strange thing at the end, but I felt like it was really important to show like how difficult it would be to transition from one of those challenges to the next one. Because being back home was like his next big challenge. Like I have to readjust entirely to be back home.
Right, I gotta be with Helena. I gotta be with Helena. I can't even say it.
I'm not sure I could do this. What was the silence? Send me back.
I was gonna say I've got to be with Helen Hunt and her vagina all day. So.
There it is. There it is.
Okay, I want to ask a quick question about the book.
Yeah.
His character in the book, The Martian.
Yep.
One thing that I thought was noticeably missing for him were what you would consider maybe like the typical reasons to want to come back. I mean, they talk about his mom and dad, but there's no indication of any kind of like girlfriend or wife or children or anything like that back home. Is it the same in the book?
It is the same in the book.
Because that's who they would pick as an astronaut, somebody who doesn't have a lot of connections at home and can be gone for years in space.
Correct, because I think it carries more. The message that they're trying to get across carries more weight if it's just a guy. I mean, if you're bringing back a father or a husband, suddenly there's that tangible connection to Earth, and it becomes more urgent to get him home. But if it's just a guy, it's suddenly what they do becomes even more extraordinary. Now they're overcoming. They're going to get him just for the sake of saving him. Not because somebody's going to grow up without a father or a husband. I think it's the story is way more intriguing if it is just the purpose of saving one person. What would we do to save one person, and just leave it at that and keep it simple? And I think that's a much better story, because in the trailer they kind of allude. There's a point where they edit it in a way that they kind of imply that he has kids, but then you get in the movie and you find out that he doesn't. And when I saw the trailer, I freaked out. I'm like, oh God, please don't let him have kids, because it would just change the story dramatically if suddenly he's like, I got to get home to my kids, and that cliched Hollywood crap. And it's not. It's a cool story about the power of science and technology and innovation and what we would do to save one person. So.
Okay.
Well,
I was just curious about that, because I guess I kind of expected that a little bit. All the other astronauts, as far as I could tell, had families and that kind of thing, but
yeah.
He didn't. Yeah.
Oh, and the two astronauts on the ship, they're like totally banging in the book.
Oh yeah, there's kind of a hint towards it. Like
it's
just
not,
a little bit of a hint.
It's not hinted. They make jokes.
So was the baby conceived in space then?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah, space baby.
They'd be doing experiments
Just
on it.
think of being able to tell your kid that.
All right,
space baby.
I'm just thinking of 2001.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
the opening scene of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, you're space baby.
Spoilers.
All right. Anything else you guys wanted to add for our writing section?
I'd just like to say, I kind of felt that The Martian had a very fan fiction feel to the writing. I don't know why specifically, but there's just moments where it's like, I think the writers enjoying it a little too much, getting into some of the scenarios and stuff that the Matt Damon's character goes through.
NASA fan fiction.
Yes, like the part with the Chinese coming to the rescue just seems like a fan fiction kind of idea of, we're gonna drop all of our problems with each other to go behind the back of the governments to bring this one guy home. It just something felt a little fan fiction-y about that.
Sorry, damn dirty liar again. I just want to let you know that it's way more complicated in the book.
It's way more complicated in the book.
Yeah, they jump through a lot more hoops to make it happen, and it's for them to set up kind of holy shit, we have run out of options. We are completely out of options. And in the book, you get, when you're reading it, you have this weight on your shoulders. You're like, that's it. He's fucked. He's not coming home. This ain't going to happen. And then the Chinese step in and you're like, oh God, we do have other options. We can cooperate. And then there's a whole, political payback and everything that goes on behind the scenes that to make that happen. And that got kind of glossed over in the movie. So, okay, sorry, I'll stop talking about the book, which I tend to do on this podcast about movies. Can you tell I'm excited that we're talking about books?
Yes. Feel free. Just let it go, Tom. Just let it out.
I'm letting it out.
About
babe.
the books.
Okay.
Not the other thing.
Okay, I'll put it back in.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Let's vote. Tom.
I'm not ready for this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to give it to. Can I pass? Seriously?
Oh,
Come back to me.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
I wasn't ready.
Gabe.
Yeah, this is tough. I think this is going to be a tough one across the board to make decisions between these two, because these are both excellent movies in many ways. But I think because of the fact that I talked about the show don't tell part of it in particular, and maybe I'm assuming Castaway. I don't recall Castaway being based on anything else.
I don't
being
believe
that
it
it's
was.
an original work. I think I'm gonna have to go with Castaway on the writing.
All right. Sam.
I think I will go with. It's really tough. It's really tough on that. But let's go. This conversation has changed my opinion. Let's do Castaway.
All right.
Wow.
Trev.
it's really close. Castaway does a pretty good job of not having a lot of writing, whereas The Martian at times feels like there's a little too much. But that doesn't necessarily speak to the quality of the writing. So I'm going to have to give it to The Martian.
All right.
Just a slight edge.
Tom, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. The scene at the end with Jessica Chastain going out to save him.
Uh-huh.
Not in the book. I gotta give it to Castaway because that was total Hollywood bullshit.
I knew
She's the captain. She should stay in the fucking ship.
I knew
I'm
it was
sorry.
going to bring it up. I knew you were going to bring that up.
That's what that set me over the edge. I was like pissed during the credits. My wife's like, "You didn't like it?" I go, "I fucking loved it. That's why I'm mad because they ruined it with that last thing." So
I want to point out that I have not read the book, but I've heard enough people talk about it. Adam Savage talks about it on his podcast, the guy from Mythbusters, and that was one of the things that really bothered him as well, Tom, was the fact that she left the ship, and the captain does not leave the ship.
yeah,
Yeah. So
there was no point, and there was no point in it except to give Jessica Chastain a little bit more screen time and make her feel better about, abandoning him in the first place. That's it. And
Right.
So, God, it pissed me off. Okay, now I'm angry.
all right, calm down. Calm down. The writer of the novel The Martian, Andy Weir, first published his book for free on his own blog for fun. Then people asked him to put it in downloadable form, then to put it on Amazon for Kindle download, which he did at the then minimum price of 99 cents.
Damn.
Like, talk about a literal rocket into space from when this book was found by someone and to the movie. This guy is on cloud nine.
That's refreshing because usually it's the opposite way where someone writes something and they think it's such a glorious deal that everyone should grovel and give them millions of dollars.
Right.
Where sometimes the best idea is someone humbly saying, you know what, if you like it, read it, and look at that success. Like that's a positive thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. All right, let's move on to acting. When someone's stomach is growling.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was
Acting, I don't know. It wasn't my stomach. Acting, I think, is very interesting. Tom Hanks is one of, I think, our this century's greatest actors in motion pictures. He's proven time and again that he can carry entire pictures with movies that are cast with hundreds of big stars, that he can always rise to the top, or if he's the only one on screen, that he is dynamic enough to do it with very little props or anything around him. It's weird looking at these two movies because even though Matt Damon was alone on Mars, there was a tremendous amount of supporting cast that we see throughout the entire 144 minutes of The Martian. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Castaway, up until about the 28-minute mark, you see a normal amount of extras and other characters, and then you've got a whole chunk, about 60 plus, of just Tom Hanks and Wilson, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. But what he's able to do, and I know I really like Matt Damon. I thought his performance in The Martian was really good, and it was very nuanced in places as well. So I think there was some detail in that performance. I don't want to not mention that at all, but Tom Hanks, I think, proved again in Castaway why everybody loves watching Tom Hanks, is because he inhabits that moment and in some ways conveys exactly what his director is looking for to help you as an audience member kind of figure the story out with him, which is always fun when you're discovering the story with the characters. And I'm not going to talk about Helen Hunt or her vagina. But,
it's too late. You already did.
No, I didn't mean to. But I think that it's all pretty much Hanks in this one. Some good stuff by Matt Damon, but and what the hell was up with Kristen Wiig? Like, I love Kristen Wiig, but she seems way miscast in The Martian to me.
That did seem a little out of place, and I was kind of hoping that maybe she would prove us wrong. But you see her, and you almost want to laugh immediately. And that's a testament to how good of a comedian she is.
Oh, yeah. She's hilarious. And then you're like, okay, I guess she's really frumpy in this movie.
Yeah, and some comedic actors can kind of transition to more serious roles, but that wasn't... I mean, when I first saw her, it kind of took me out of the movie. I was like, oh, I didn't know she was in this. And then, later on I was okay with it. But it didn't seem like the best casting choice.
I do not like Kristen Wiig. I don't really care. I find she kind of has I don't like her range. I think she only has 2 or 3 characters that she does over and over again. So send your hate mail to me. I don't fucking care. Okay. Again, reading the book, seeing the trailer, seeing her in it, I would suddenly get upset. I'm like, God, what the hell is she doing in this? And then finding out which character she was playing, I'm like, actually, that's perfect casting, because she can play that PR NASA PR person pretty well, and and they kept her screen time to a minimum, so I'm kind of okay with that. So I think it's interesting too that we're looking at The Martian, which is it's Matt Damon, but also a much more of an ensemble cast about everybody back on Earth, and Castaway, which is Tom Hanks and a volleyball. So. The volleyball did a good job. It was very convincing. I never for a moment thought he wasn't a volleyball. So.
I thought he was drunk in a few scenes, actually. He was fucking wasted.
He was just a little bit crooked, wasn't he?
Yeah. A little underinflated. Or
I heard he had a heroin problem on set, but that's just rumor.
No. He just liked needles.
That's
totally
different. That's just an inflation needle.
Somebody spiked the volleyball.
It's going way downhill.
Thank you.
One of the things to me about both of these films and the actors in them is that they're both such likable people.
Who wants to save an asshole?
It's true, but I think there's something about both Tom Hanks and Matt Damon that is likable, both on screen and off. Not that I have any experience with them necessarily off screen, but they both seem like down to earth, genuine type people. And this is going to go back to one of our previous domain names too, about the Jeremy Renner thing. I think one of the reasons that the Bourne trilogy was so successful is because Matt Damon himself was such a likable. He's just likable on screen. You want to see him figure it out. And then they do the Bourne Legacy or whatever it was called with Jeremy Renner in it, and then you just don't really even care what happens necessarily because he doesn't come across as likable on screen. And I think that's the power for both of these films, is that the reason we want to watch this, the reason we can sit for an hour plus and only see one actor on the screen that whole time is because that actor is really likable, and we really we really care about what's happening to them. We want to see them succeed and be rescued and that kind of thing. And I think that's the case in both of these. For me, I cared about what happened to them because the actors themselves come across as very likable.
That's a great point, Gabe. I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, if it was Russell Crowe on the island or on Mars, I don't think anybody would go back for him.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Seriously, and he's kind of like that, you know.
And
I was rooting for him in The Gladiator, but not necessarily because he was so likable, but because he got so screwed in The Gladiator.
Right. But that's funny.
There's
I think
a sex scene in Gladiator.
Oh, you didn't see that one?
Oh, I got to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix takes his thumb and he turns it up. So I think that's a good point. I think that I don't know if casting directors choose the leading people in these movies, but I mean, obviously choosing Matt Damon and Tom Hanks was a great move for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I do think, you know, Tom Hanks' performance in Castaway is one for the ages. I mean, it's a classic performance that will continue to be considered a top performance for as long as we can, you know, foresee. Yeah. But I also think that Matt Damon's performance was good, and he wasn't just his normal self. I didn't think in it. It was a little bit more nuanced, and I liked what he did with it, where he was kind of a little bit of a smart ass. Mm-hmm. He was kind of smart alecky, but you felt like, well, that was his coping mechanism. He's being a smart ass because it's the only way to stay positive enough to get through this. And, you know, those statements like, I am the best botanist on this planet, or mm-hmm. I just blew myself up, you know, and he comes, I thought that was actually very funny.
Oh, that whole scene.
When he blew himself up, and then he sits down and there's a little bit of smoke coming off of him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just blew myself, and his hair's all messed up. And that's a very serious thing. He could have died. But the director and the actor and the character all injected a little bit of humor into that very serious situation, and it made it really enjoyable to me. So I don't know. I think both of them have great performances, and they have the extra added bonus of being likable people too.
Anyone have anything else to say on acting? Trevor's asleep.
I'm still here. I don't have anything to add. I think we covered everything pretty well. Yeah. Both Matt Damon and Tom Hanks are very good at acting. I will say I think Tom Hanks acted better in space when he had his opportunity than Matt Damon, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple things to add. First, did you guys see the meme going around about how much money are we going to spend to try and save Matt Damon because of The Martian, Interstellar, and Saving Private Ryan, which I thought was I thought it was really funny. Second one is Tom Hanks is the white man's Denzel Washington, and third is Matt Damon.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, let's vote. Sam.
I'm going to go Castaway.
All right. Tom.
I'm going to go with The Martian. Great ensemble casting from everybody, including Chiwetel Ejiofor.
You said his name.
You just
correctly.
wanted to say that name, didn't you?
I've been practicing all day, and I've had some looks.
Did you get it right? I couldn't tell you.
I did mumble a little bit.
He did.
Chiwetel Ejiofor?
Yeah, there you go. Trevor.
Martian for the ensemble cast.
All right. And Gabe.
I think I have to go with Castaway for the performance of the ages.
All right. To make himself look like an average, out-of-shape, middle-aged man, Tom Hanks didn't exercise and allowed himself to grow pudgy. Production was then halted for a year so he could lose 50 pounds and grow out his hair for his time spent on the deserted island. During this hiatus, Robert Zemeckis used the same crew to film What Lies Beneath.
I don't think I've ever seen that. Have you seen that?
I have seen that. It's okay.
Was that an adult picture?
No. It had adult themes. Uh-oh, Tom's typing something at me.
Damn it. I need a new recommendation now, you dick.
Sorry.
God.
You can still
If you're not
recommend
going to
it.
read my messages, I'm just going to stop sending them to you. Here's one for you. How's that?
Oh, awesome. All right. Let's move on to directing.
Yeah, this one's gonna be tough for me because, well, as you guys probably are already aware, now Sam's typing things. The funny part about what Sam typed is it's misspelled, but I still knew where he was going with it. Anyway, Ridley Scott is one of my favorite directors of all time. And I've recommended one of his movies, I think, more than once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for me. And I felt like this was also a return to form for him. I feel like he's had a little bit of a slump lately with some of his films.
Prometheus.
Yeah. I wanted to really like Prometheus. And it's one of my favorite things about Ridley Scott is the visuals. He definitely has kind of a strong sense for visual storytelling and creates just these most amazing images. And I think that was still there with Prometheus, but I just think that maybe the story wasn't quite there, and I was a little disappointed in that, to be honest with you, because Alien is another great film of his that has great images, and it has enduring, characters and storylines. I mean, who doesn't think of the whole, chest burster alien thing from time to time? Mm-hmm. So it's really difficult. But now having seen Castaway again after a long time and seen things like Forrest Gump and other Robert Zemeckis films, it's like he is really an accomplished director himself. And his strength, and maybe also my complaint with him, is that he has kind of a flair for the melodramatic a little bit.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
but
he likes
he's
to tell
really
big
good
stories.
at it, and he gets me with it every time. I don't go, "Oh, this is so melodramatic," and kind of roll my eyes. He gets me with it every time. Forrest Gump, man. How many times do I hate to admit that I tear up during Forrest Gump, and even at the end of Castaway, I'm kind of tearing up when they're talking about, how he's lost her and he was the love of her life and all these kinds of things. It's kind of over the top melodramatic, but it works. And so for me, these are two great films from two great directors, and it's going to be a hard choice. So I don't know, guys, convince me. Who should I pick in this round?
I think The Martian really blew me away when it comes to this category, because I think I felt in sync with the filmmaker. Of course, you've talked about some of the stuff he did that didn't go so right, but some of his other iconic film work, I think, was evident here in some of these really large space scenes. I like the feel of a lot of it, and I think part of that has to, we talked about the writing. Some of this visual imagery, though, was inspired and I think craftfully directed by the director in The Martian. And I like Robert Zemeckis for Castaway, and you're right, he does tell big stories. There's a lot of good stuff in Castaway, but I think the overall package with from start to finish experience, The Martian just blew me away. And I think some of that sensibility of what could be practical effect and what could be visual effect, and how much of the visual effect to see. I know Gabe earlier said you thought some of that could be cut. I think some of it, for me, could have been elongated. So it'd be in some ways like that scene in Drive where it just kind of stops and slows down. I really appreciate that sometimes in cinema, when you can just kind of take in this fake world, especially Mars. Some of those beautiful landscape shots, and just no words, no real story, just that visual image puts you in that location. And I think the directing in The Martian did that a little bit better than Castaway, which there's a lot of good stuff going there too.
the Robert Zemeckis is after Steven Spielberg. Robert Zemeckis is the director of my childhood. I mean, he directed the Roger Rabbit, Back to the Future, and Romancing the Stone, the movies that I really loved as a kid, and I've seen dozens of times, all of them. I still love them, and they take me back. Castaway, who I think was one of his last great movies, because after that, someone bought him a computer and a shitty version of After Effects, and he just got like crazy with the computer, and he got into Polar Express and Beowulf and Christmas Carol, which we've talked about, and the creepy motion capture thing, and he spent more time just kind of going after the uncanny divide rather than concentrating on telling good stories. And it's like that Jeff Goldblum line from Jurassic Park. He's too busy to worry about whether he can, didn't think about whether he should. And it
nice pull. Nice pull.
And I back to Spielberg. Woo, full circle. So I think that I miss Robert Zemeckis. I want him to be telling these great stories and stop depending so much on the special effects and just tell the good stories. And that's what I love about Castaway so much, is that while I know there's tons of special effects in there, a lot of it are them off the coast of Fiji shooting on an island and letting the story tell itself. And I think that's one reason why I kind of want to. I'm boring someone, and so I.
What?
Somebody yawn. So I think I would.
I may have breathed heavy, but it's because I was sorry. I was not yawning.
All right, I'm not putting you to sleep. I'm turning you on. Sweet.
No, that's good. Good. I like it. Keep going.
Anything heavy breather. So anyway, I think Robert Zemeckis. I love Castaway, and it takes me back as to one of those movies that I really would have liked as a kid too, because these are the really great stories he can tell. I'm not a huge fan, sorry Gabe, of Ridley Scott. A lot of his movies just don't really hit it for me, but I love his classic ones. But I don't know, this one I kind of might go with Robert Zemeckis just because it reminds me of the kind of movie I'd watch as a kid.
Trevor?
I enjoy Ridley Scott films. I also enjoy his brother's films because those were the ones I grew up with. Top Gun and Top Gun, Days of Thunder, and Enemy of the State. Like those were the films I remember. I'd always watch there on TV and all that stuff. And I don't know, like this is a toss-up because in Castaway, you've got Tom Hanks owning that film. And it's kind of hard to say, well, where does the director come into that and how much was Tom Hanks? Versus in The Martian, I feel like you can feel the influence that Ridley Scott had on it more than Zemeckis and Castaway. So it's going to be a preference call, I think, on this one.
All right. I just want to point out, Tom, you talked about Robert Zemeckis. You didn't mention Used Cars, which was actually, if you want to go full circle with Spielberg, he was a producer of Used Cars.
That's right. I love that. It's so Kurt Russell. It's hilarious.
Yes. Such a good movie.
One of the first time I saw boobs as a kid, like oh my God, let's watch Used Cars again.
All right. Well, if you don't have anything else to talk about for directing, let's go ahead and vote. We'll start it off with Gabe.
Well, I think I'm going to have to go with an all-time favorite. I'm going to have to go with Ridley Scott. I think the directing on both of these films was, stellar. But I think I got to go with Ridley Scott just because, I don't know, I'm a fan. So.
Fanboy. Tom.
Yeah, sorry, I got to go there.
I'm going to go with Zemeckis because if I look at these two stories on the page, I feel like Robert Zemeckis' job was a hell of a lot harder than Ridley Scott's.
All right.
So,
Sam?
I think just the opposite of Tom. I'm going to go with The Martian, Ridley Scott.
Yeah. Sorry.
Trev?
Ridley Scott. Martian.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. Seriously?
Yep. Everyone disagreed with you on that one, Tom.
Well, I have to say, like I said earlier in the podcast, that both of these movies are very well matched. They're close decisions. It's not like, oh yeah, definitely one or the other. They're very close.
I'm glad we chose these two films to go against each other. Because quite frankly, I was a little worried that it was going to be one of those, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and then it's just a landslide for one film. But I'm glad to see it's kind of
a toss-up?
Toss-up, stalemate, Mexican standoff. Let's see, where the hell was I? Okay, when Nolan squats on the ground in Castaway, he is contemplating an item that has washed up on shore. The shot is composed as an homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, reportedly Tom Hanks' favorite film. Well, there you go. Yeah. There you go. And that's how the cookie crumbles. Let's move on to overall.
I enjoyed one of these films more than the other, but I think the other one is a better film.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yes. So some points I would like to bring up. I really wish in the Castaway that they could have gotten rid of the shot of Tom Hanks just peeing into the ocean. I just thought it was unnecessary. And he always does that in his movies. He always pissing somewhere.
Or on someone.
It's just a little much. So I feel like just jumping straight into this. I feel like Castaway is the better film. And I enjoyed The Martian more than The Castaway. That's because I love space and science and stuff. And like that hits home with me, and I can fanboy that movie really hard. Whereas watching The Castaway, I had a more emotional attachment to that film. Like I felt more for Tom Hanks. I appreciated how much they didn't say. And just Tom Hanks acting in that film, I thought was amazing. He did a great job. Helen Hunt and like the rest of the cast, I don't think did it nearly as good of a job. And I think that's because of how well Tom Hanks acted in it. Who agrees?
Well, I think her vagina was horrible. Helen Hunt's vagina
What is going on?
horrible.
Where is this coming from?
Exactly. That's what I was saying the whole movie. It's like, oh, this girl's
So
got to do
I think that has something to do with like Tom Hanks' character hasn't had anything except for maybe a volleyball for like 4 years.
Okay.
He has a legitimate chance of hooking up with Helen Hunt. And it was like, nah, probably shouldn't.
Yep.
You don't find that very realistic.
Yeah, what I thought when we talk overall about these two films is just looking at some of the baseline numbers, like their budgets. Even though they're 15 years apart in bigger budget movies, they're only like $18 million difference in their budgets, which really surprised me because I thought The Martian would be extravagantly more money.
I don't think that included marketing costs. I think that's where The Martian gets a little bit more expensive.
Yeah. Well, and also the dynamic of who they're going to be selling this movie to and how. I guess you're right. Is right, but I don't know. There's some parts.
Pay much for the rights to The Martian too, to make it into a film versus whoever wrote The Castaway.
Right. Well, and I think you're right, Trevor, that the better movie is probably Castaway, but for me as well, the experience in the movie that I enjoyed the most was The Martian. But in some ways, I see it as like, Armageddon or Independence Day, which is a guilty favorite, versus something of a more serious film that I enjoy. Like Citizen Kane is an extreme example. They're both things I like to watch. Is one absolutely better cinematically, and, deeper, makes you think about a lot more stuff. Absolutely. But I think in Castaway overall, I think there's a beeper in there about 1653, which I thought was funny. That's one of the notes that I had. Like sometimes somebody's got to be watching it. It's like, what the hell is he looking at?
Beeper.
Yeah, it's beeper. And I love in the script and in the film itself how when he tears the Band-Aid off, all hell breaks loose. Like that last little bit of comfort, what we consider the Band-Aid, and then once he rips it off, as soon as it comes off, I don't know if anyone else felt that, but as soon as he did that, all hell just, it just transported the movie. And there's some wonderful weather and just nature footage, or weather, rain footage in Castaway. It's like, so it's basic, but it's so beautiful. It's like takes you there instantly. It's simple, but it kind of resets the palette for, okay, nature's in charge now. Whereas the first half of that was so fast paced of Tom Hanks is in charge. He's going to ship them damn packages. And then all of a sudden it resets and he's not the dominant one anymore. But I really enjoyed The Martian and a lot of the visuals especially. But overall, I think Castaway is a better movie.
Yeah, the ocean shots where, they're just showing those rolling waves and how small he is absolutely amazing. The other thing I want to talk about too is
Wait,
what?
I'm sorry. I mean, you also feel that way with The Martian, like that large
the size
expanse.
of it.
Yeah, just the size of it. I thought both films did a good job in comparing this single human against nature.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about too is the score, and I thought the Martian score was it did overwhelm the film, which it easily could have, and it has in Ridley Scott films in the past, where you're just like, okay, we get it. You guys got a really great composer. Nice job. Whereas Castaway and is it James Horner did Castaway?
I believe so.
James Horner is also somebody who sometimes is guilty of overdoing it on the music. No, I'm sorry, Alan Silvestri. I'm sorry.
Was it Alan Silvestri?
Yeah, he's stuck with Robert Zemeckis since Back to the Future 7.
Okay.
What I mean, and just absolutely genius use of music in Castaway. That there's no music on the island, and this was the first time I watched it where I absolutely noticed it. I'm like, I can't remember the last time I heard any score. And the movie is told so well that it doesn't need it. And definitely a really great example of less is more.
Yeah, and interestingly, one of the things I noticed about the score was the end credits. Do you remember how the score went through the end credits
On Castaway?
Yeah, on Castaway.
No.
It was actual music interspersed with just the sound of waves. So there would be a little bit of kind of a theme, a musical theme, and then it would just stop, and then you would just hear the sound of waves. And then all of a sudden, just a little bit more music would come in, and then waves. And it did that through almost the whole credit sequence, if I remember right, which I thought was very interesting too. And I think it's telling for like a composer or someone like that to step back and step out of that scenario for the purpose of that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you guys want to add anything else to overall?
Well, yeah, I did want to talk briefly about some of the visual effects and that kind of thing.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And this may be an area where Trevor has a little bit more to say about it. But I found that both of them, they didn't go over the top with visual effects, and they served the movie well. And I was really impressed at having seen Castaway years and years ago, and then having come back to it now for the podcast. I was really impressed at how good the visual effects were at the time. And
yeah,
I
they
have
hold
to tell
up
you,
really well.
Yeah. And I have to tell you that Castaway was one of those moments where I was a little bit. Sometime after I saw it the first time, I saw some special on visual effects, and it had something. I don't know if it was all about Castaway or if it was just Castaway was featured in this in some way or another. But it was one of those moments where I got mad at the visual effects because they were too good. Because there's a scene where he goes up to that peak, and he looks out over the whole island from up at the top of that peak, and he looks out and he sees the ocean and the trees and the beach and all that, and it's just gorgeous. And I'm like, wow, that is really a gorgeous place. Wouldn't it be awesome to work in a place like that? You know, that would be so cool to see that. Well, only the rock that he was standing on was real. The rest of it was fake.
Like the
all
actual
of it was
rock?
fake. What's that?
The actual rock? Like the actor? The wrestler?
The Rock. He was staying on the rock, and then they replaced him.
He was wearing a green suit.
rock.
Yeah.
No, that peak where he was standing wasn't really that far off the ground, actually. Because then they showed in this special, they showed how they put that together. And he's standing there, and he's looking out over, like, mud and some pads, I guess, in case he fell off there by accident. And there's, like, a production assistant standing down below.
Shut up! You're ruining it!
I know, and that's one time when I got really mad at visual effects because I thought for so long I'm like, that is beautiful, and then I found out later it was fake, and it was, but it's a testament to how good those effects were.
Yeah,
and even now, knowing it, I watched it again. I said that is beautiful, and I looked for flaws in it. I looked for like, oh, where's that edge? You know, where is the error here that's going to tip me off to the fact that it's a visual effect? Even looking for it, I couldn't find it. So I was really impressed with the visual effects in Castaway especially, but in both movies.
Well, especially Castaway being 2000, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that crash, I mean, not just well designed by the directors and cinematographers. I don't know. The whole thing is like some of those sequences. It's not as much effects work as it is in The Martian, which is beautiful. I mean, I think it really helps tell the story, which is what I think a special effects should do in the first place. But yeah, to me, Castaway for that time period to be so seamless, I don't know. It's very moving. Like it does rips you out of your seat when all hell breaks loose and takes you for that wild ride.
Well, right. And I can't remember if anyone said this, but I know we talked about it with a few other films where I felt like Mars was another character. Yeah, it's in The Martian. Like I just felt like it took on a character of its own. And with Castaway, you know, once more adding to Tom Hanks's prowess as an actor, you know, it was Tom Hanks versus Mother Nature, which kind of reared her ugly head in multiple scenes. But, you know, where in The Martian it was Matt Damon versus Mars, kind of. That's what they should have called it, Matt Damon versus Mars. But you bring up the visual effects, and I've just been doing some research here, and it says that most of the night shots were all shot during the day for Castaway, except for my favorite scene, which is I Have Made Fire scene. I love that scene. I don't know why. But everything else was shot during the day. The darkness and night sky effects were added in post-production later.
You know, now that you say that, I do feel like some of that had the, you know, day for night look to it a little bit.
A little bit.
Not as bad as the old westerns, like you know the Searchers. But a definite improvement from 50 years back.
Yeah. So does anybody know about the landscapes in The Martian? Because there were times when I thought, like, oh, this actually looks like it could be like a canyon on Earth that they added a different like sky to.
Oh, it was shot. Yeah. Hold on, I've got it here. Film was shot in Wadi Rum, Jordan, which I probably said that wrong, except for the Jordan part, which is a red-colored desert, the same location where another Mars mission film, Red Planet, was shot.
Oh, that's a good film. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because there were times when I was like, okay, that actually looks like Mountains on Earth with maybe a different sky added to it, something like that. Which is fine because that's probably kind of what it looks like. But
and I believe it's the Little Dipper. Is it the Big Dipper? Can be seen in almost all the space and night shots.
oh, really?
I think it's the French Dipper.
The French Dipper? Oh my!
Yes. It was delicious.
Hang on, I'm going to Urban Dictionary. I don't know what that means.
I was talking about the sandwich. There's nothing else. So.
Oh, it's not a sex thing?
No.
No, it's not a sex thing.
Okay. All right.
So, Red Planet is one of those other films that came out around the same time as a very similar film, Mission to Mars.
Oh,
like just like Armageddon, Deep Impact, like Hollywood doing like same stuff from two different studios.
Yeah. All right. You guys have anything else to add?
Nope.
Yep. I'd say going with the visual effects, just for the listeners out there, the best visual effects are the ones you don't notice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And always just keep that in mind. Like if it's like, well, we could do that with visual effects, but it's like, well, if you can tell that it's visual effects, it takes you out of the story, and that's not a good thing.
George Lucas in the prequels. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things that I liked about both of these movies is the visual effects were there to serve the story.
Yeah.
That they were, it was never anything where it's like, hey, look what we can do. Isn't this cool? It was they were always there to move the story along and make the story more believable. And if you can have visual effects where you're like, was that a visual effect or not? Where you're looking for it and you can't see it, then that's a good visual effect.
And I want to bring up a couple things. Number one, there are a few scientific inaccuracies with The Martian. A dust storm would not cause that amount of damage. The winds, 100-mile-per-hour wind on Mars would be like a little breeze here because of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So, to add in drama. What else was it?
Would there be like tornadoes? Because
yes,
they kind of depicted tornadoes.
They actually have pictures of, they're not tornadoes, they're dust devils.
That
they
I can
actually
believe.
do occur.
Yeah.
They're not going to do any damage, though.
Right. I also want to point out it was good to see Donald Glover in a film.
He's great.
Yes.
I
He's
really
great.
like Donald Glover. And it was nice to see Sean Bean not be beheaded or killed in a film.
Is this the first movie where he hasn't been killed?
It might be. It very well might be. But
he didn't even get...
Spoilers for Game of Thrones.
He got fired, though. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, kind of, maybe.
Is that the
his
same as getting
career
killed?
was beheaded.
Yeah, his career was
All right.
He
that's
got the
ridiculous.
axe.
Axe body spray.
Oh,
Yes.
man. Oh, wow.
All right. Well, I also wanted to point out I like the use of the little cameras on the spacesuits. Of course, those were GoPros. We all knew they were GoPros, but they did a good job of making them kind of look not like GoPros.
Or were they supposed to look? Were they just like,
They're just supposed to be for monitoring what they're doing and being able to see.
Were they trying to hide that they were GoPros? Or were they like,
yes,
oh, yeah,
they
GoPros
covered up
on
the
Mars?
GoPro logos.
they did?
They kind of made them look part of the suit, which
Well,
according to the trivia, the art director or wardrobe, where was it? Actually went and studied some of the suits that NASA had planned for Mars and said they look like Buzz Lightyear. So these were actually a little bit modified from it, which I thought, just from a technical geek, I thought the suits looked fantastic in The Martian.
Well, and something we really haven't talked about much, the whole production design side of The Martian, I think is something that you can't really compare it to Castaway because it doesn't really exist on that level.
Right.
And it's amazing work. Like those technicians and costuming included in wardrobe and what have you, and properties, like that's some amazing work.
Right. And that's to me another one of the hallmarks of Ridley Scott's filmmaking.
Sure.
You can say that about a number of his movies: Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator. You pick one, and the production value, and those kinds of things. All that kind of stuff, costumes, sets, props, everything is just stellar, over the top. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons I like Ridley Scott. There's a lot of attention to detail in those respects.
Yep.
Well, it's funny. You have these are kind of opposite stories, or maybe they're the same, but you've got all of this, big setup to tell the story about a person being alone. Matt Damon as the Martian, and then in Castaway, it's kind of the opposite of that. Like you go minimal to tell the story of that person.
Yeah.
Both of them are about telling those individual stories and how they deal with their surroundings, but it's kind of cool to look at the differences that both of those productions took on the same kind of issue.
And I also want to bring up when I saw Castaway for the first time, I believe it was at home. I don't think I saw it in the theater, but I was having teeth problems. I had a tooth going bad, and the scene where he knocks the tooth out with the ice skate almost made me faint. Like, it absolutely positively put me in that moment, and I seriously broke out in a flop sweat. I turned pale white. It really hit home. So every time I see that now, I think about that. It doesn't happen now, but yeah, at that time, it hit pretty close to home.
Anybody that's had a toothache, though, they appreciate that scene. They're like, "Yep, I've been there."
Yeah.
They're like, sometimes you just want it out of your damn mouth.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. All right, let's vote. Trev.
I kind of started off with the vote, but Castaway, the better film. Martian, more enjoyable for me.
So you're picking Castaway?
Yeah, Castaway, best film, better
right.
film.
All right, Tom.
Oh, we always go back to rewatchability, and I feel 20 years from now, I'm probably still going to be watching Castaway. So I'm going to vote for The Martian because I think I'm going to be wrong.
Okay. Sam.
Let's. I'm kind of like Trevor in some ways. I feel that, and Tom, rewatchability is a big factor. And I think there's just some scenes in The Martian that I feel were just kind of cookie cuttered in there to put gaps in the adaptation and to show that passage of time. So I'm going to go Castaway.
All right. Gabe.
Yeah, this really is difficult. It's hard to pick one. But I think I'm going to have to go with Castaway because of what I mentioned before. Is I really enjoy the whole show don't tell type approach to it, and it is a movie that I would gladly rewatch over and over in the future. Although I have to say I would rewatch The Martian as well and look for like the little things in it. I have a feeling there's a lot of small details in The Martian that would be fun to rewatch.
There are. All right. Yeah, Tom.
Nothing. I went solo again. I feel like I have a good idea which direction you guys are going, and then you veer to the left, and you leave me standing over here holding by Martian like some kind of asshole.
I really thought coming into this I was going to be pretty much pro Martian on every category. So no, I think it's a good discussion.
I'm pro Martian.
Yeah.
All right.
Martians are jerks.
So we'll get to the announcement of the winner here shortly, but I want to ask you gentlemen a question I would have asked last time if it wasn't for Hurricane Albino, which is what we're calling it from now on.
Does the albino?
Did the season start over already?
Yeah.
It's bigger
was this the 27th hurricane?
How many times have you watched the Star Wars trailer? Like how did it impact you? Like all of you, how did it impact you? And I know, I mean, specifically, I'm asking one person who is a huge Star Wars fan, Sam. I really want to hear his opinion, and I would like to hear all of yours as well. So go ahead and start it off, Sam.
Well, I surprisingly have only watched it probably like 5 or 6 times, and I really enjoyed it. And watched the original teaser trailer that came out several times and enjoyed it. I'm really excited about it, and I think in some ways I kind of just want to save it for when I can digest it all at once. Mm-hmm. I've really been encouraged by the drips and drabs that I've been seeing, and the stuff that kind of came out through Kevin Smith, and the way that J.J. Abrams has just conducted himself overall with this monumental task of taking this cherished thing that is so possible to for people to hate you instantly. And he's faced this before, and now it's, I think, first to Star Trek, and now even bigger level Star Wars, which I'm sure some fans, nerds would take, nerdcore would take offense to. But I'm really encouraged by what I've seen, and I'm kind of in this pattern now of I'm just excited and ready to be blown away when I see it in person. And I really think it's going to be everything I wanted and more. And it's really kind of exciting to have a new Star Wars back in your life that kind of brings you full circle with your, what you liked as a child and what you like now, and what you may possibly pass on to your children if you're going to have children in your life. And just the whole cycle of Star Wars to me is inspiring as an independent filmmaker, as someone that kind of comes back to the power of ideas. If you have an idea that that you're passionate about, or a character that you're passionate about, if you follow it all the way through, it can get to the point where that character will outlive you, 100-fold. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited, and I don't want to keep watching the trailer too many times, and I'm trying to stay away from people picking at things like, why isn't Luke in this, and why isn't this and that? Right. It's like, I don't give a fuck. You guys can theorize, and everybody's been theorizing for so long that it's like, they're just like blowing themselves or something, and it's like. It's autofellatio, and I don't want to be part of it because I can't do it. As Randall says in Clerks, like no. I guess I'll stop there. But, no, I'm excited by it. I think it's going to be good stuff.
All right. I just want to point out, you brought up the whole independent film, and Star Wars was an independent film. And you could almost say that George Lucas is the most successful independent filmmaker of all time.
Well, but not really, though, because it was bankrolled by 20th Century Fox.
It was. But
so you can't call it independent in the truest sense, because it had a major studio that was bankrolling it and
that's true.
Distributing it.
Right.
But the amount of the thought, though, of it doesn't take a lot of money to create good characters, I think, is where I was going with that. Mm-hmm. He created something in his mind before, it was even shot. He was passionate about telling the story. And in some ways, that passion for storytelling has evolved into this, entity that it is, that I'm sure even, he could never have dreamed that the world would fall in love this much with his creation.
Okay.
I'm super stoked for it.
Okay.
I can't wait.
Well,
my kids are excited for it. It's great.
And which one of us here was not inspired by Star Wars as a kid to get into filmmaking? And I don't know, maybe I'm the only one old enough to have been inspired by Star Wars. Maybe it was something else. But for you guys, well, I don't know.
I posted something about it. The trailer made me feel like I was 5 years old again, going to see Return of the Jedi. Yeah. That was the first Star Wars I saw in the theater. And I think Star Wars wasn't necessarily something that wanted me to be a filmmaker, but it was something that made my imagination know no bounds, Like it kind of gave me that freedom to just use my imagination for anything. And maybe that did help me become a filmmaker. As a filmmaker, you do have to have an imagination, at least for the non-documentary type films. You know, you need to visualize your shots, your characters, everything like that. But I would definitely say it allowed me to use my imagination more because I absolutely fell in love with it.
Yeah. Well, I was totally inspired when I first saw it. I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And, I'm excited for the new ones too, because I think J.J. Abrams really approaches them very respectfully. And maybe even more respectfully than George Lucas himself.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of respect for the originals, and he has a lot of respect for what they created
He has
and
respect
how
he has
they were
respect,
created.
He has
What's
respect
that?
for the fans, I think, is what
Yeah.
George
That
Lucas
too.
lacked.
That too. Absolutely. But that comes down to knowing what it is about the originals that's so special.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Right.
I think he's really in tune with that. And he himself, I don't know, may have been inspired in some way by Star Wars when he was a kid.
Now, I mean, the prequels disappointed me. There were some things
Only
that I
disappointed
enjoyed.
you?
There were some things that I enjoyed about the prequels, but there were other things that I actually despised. But
I'm not familiar with this word you're using.
episodes 1, 2, and 3, Tom. I know you've seen.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know.
But
It just went
I
it
just-
went off the rails. It's like the technology got better, but the
story,
stories and everything else was horrible. So it was
The
like
acting was not great.
But I also
you
want
got,
to
like
point.
these racist kind of Asian stereotypes opening the first one right away, and after the crawl, you see the crawl, and you're like, "Yes, it's Star Wars," and then you're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Oh,
Sorry,
Yeah, it was-
do a racial stereotype, fight the British.
yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
Exactly.
to
And then,
kids
yeah,
that
even
grew
Jar Jar
up with
Binks was
that,
kind of
with
racial.
the new ones, like that's their Star Wars.
No,
And-
it's not. No, it's
and
not.
it takes their parents to say, no, this is the Star Wars, and you show them the old stuff. But I agree, even when he re-released them and added in some of the stuff, and I'm sure anyone listening to this and the four of you will agree, Greedo did not shoot first. Like it's just Han shot first.
I gotta tell you, I put the VHS one in recently, and it's a lot closer than you remember.
Oh, I know it is.
It's,
I know
Oh,
it
it's
is.
totally self-defense.
I mean, it's
But
it's
that doesn't
within
mean Greedo got a shot off.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like within a frame of the two of
Yeah.
the two shots going off. So I don't know. The cold blooded shot. It's not as there as you think it is. I gotta tell you.
So I know we talked about it beforehand, but I'll point out I've been watching the trailer every night before I go to bed. I've also watched someone did a great edit. It's called the Han Solo flashback. It's where they take the beginning of the trailer, and then after the Falcon goes through light speed, when it slows back down, it goes into flashbacks of the 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, cool.
So I would definitely check that out if you can. It's pretty good. There's also one where it's what is it called? Binks Rising or Binks Awakens or something like that, where someone put
This is
Jar
the
Jar Binks
poster
into
with
it.
yes.
No, but it's an actual trailer. Yeah, it's
okay.
absolutely ridiculous, and it makes me laugh. But I mean, just watching it, you're like, oh my God, that's my Star Wars. Han, Leia, Chewie. We didn't see Luke, and just like Sam said, people are all over it saying, oh, I think he's this, I think he's this. And it's like, well, let's just wait and see. And the fact that JJ is doing, from what Kevin Smith says, such a fantastic job, because apparently Kevin Smith has seen the film, and he visited the set and this, that, and the other. But I mean, watch Super 8. JJ grew up on Spielberg and Lucas films.
Yeah.
He is of our generation that grew up with those films, and he knows how to capture them. And I think he's going to do a great job. And I was, sitting there going, don't get excited. And My wife woke me up the night that the trailer hit on Monday Night Football. I was actually in bed because I had an early call the next morning. And she woke me up, handed me my iPad, and said, "You have to watch this." And I got chilled. I got goosebumps. And I got teary-eyed. It took me back to when I was 5. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I got excited. And I totally understand where people are going to be guarded because of what happened in the past.
I think the thing that we have to keep in mind too is that we got 6 films in 37 years, and now we're going to get 6 in 5.5 years. I mean, it's crazy. It's going to be absolutely insane. And this is just the first slice. This is just the first chapter of what we're going to experience over the next 6 years. And they're not all going to be Empire Strikes Back good, but take the pieces for what they are and just wait to step back and see what they're putting together, because it's in Disney's best interest to make good movies. If they screw this up, they will be out billions of dollars down the road for screwing up this franchise, and they're not going to put out crap.
Well, they can't. Look what they've done with Marvel. They keep some films are not as strong as the others, but they're still good films, and they're still entertaining. Yes.
And collectively, the MCU is, it's staggering when you step back and look at what they've put together in the last 10 years. It's amazing. And they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Just relax. It's not going to be all, Disney princesses.
All right. Let's poke the monkey and find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is... Castaway!
Damn! That's awesome.
That was really close.
I think it's a testament to how actually well made both of those films are.
I think so. Like I was going in, I was thinking, these are going to be 2 films that are going to go well with each other. But in the past, I've thought that, and like I said earlier, one film just takes it all. So I'm glad to see that we had such a great discussion about both of the films, and that we enjoyed both of them. A lot of times I think we're going to enjoy both, and one of the other one is just like, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. But let's move on to recommendations for this month, and we'll go back to the top. We'll start with Tom.
Okay, so you have a whole crew, and you got to send Tom Hanks off to lose some weight. What do? You take him to somewhere else, and you shoot another movie. Thanks, Mike, for screwing up my recommendation. So my recommendation is the really underrated, excellent thriller, What Lies Beneath, starring Han Solo and Michelle Pfeiffer. I'm telling you, it's really good as a thriller, and the story is woven together really well. It's written by Clark Gregg, who, speaking of Marvel Universe, plays Agent Coulson.
Oh.
Holy
Coulson.
Crap! Really?
He wrote that?
He wrote the story and screenplay. So
wow,
back in 2000, before he broke through with Marvel. So another reason to go watch. I knew I was going to blow your minds with that, so that's why I stuck with the recommendation, even though Mike screwed me. So it is a really great story. It's very entertaining. And really well woven together. It gets a little heavy with the CGI, just a little bit, but it holds up well 15 years later. So if you wanted to know what the cast of Castaway was doing while Tom Hanks was away, check out What Lies Beneath.
Very nice rhyming, Tom. Sam.
I really don't have a specific recommendation this week. There's so much good stuff going on, and in the world of movies and what have you. I think also kind of sometimes we, from time to time, do television shows and whatnot. I think, last podcast we were talking about horror films and whatnot. One of the films, or one of the horror series that's been on television that I've been following as of late, continue to follow, is the new season of American Horror Story. This time it's set in a hotel, and Lady Gaga kind of takes over the starring role from Jessica Lange had done the last several years. Very interesting work there. And again, not for everybody, especially if you're not necessarily into the horror scene or whatnot. But as far as what where television is going, and in some ways, some of the boundaries of television. It's interesting to kind of keep up with the series. So, Hotel is just another example of a great American Horror Story. It's been a great franchise so far, and this season has lived up to that reputation.
Nice, thanks, Sam. Gabe?
Well, I'm gonna go with a movie that I saw recently. It's been on HBO, and I had a chance to see it, and I took the opportunity on HBO because it's like, well, I don't want to necessarily rent it or go to the theater because it might not be that good. But I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, and I've watched it a couple of times now that it's on HBO. And that's John Wick with Keanu Reeves in it.
I wanted to see that.
I actually enjoy it quite a bit. It's it's not I wouldn't put it into the category of great movies, but it's really entertaining, and they do a good job of setting up his motivation for going all badass killer on everybody. They do a good job with that, and you kind of root for him because of it. And some of the acting isn't so great, but Keanu Reeves is actually pretty good. A lot of the gunfight sequences are really fun and entertaining. The lighting is very interesting. It's very strong lighting. I think maybe they were going. I don't know if. Do you guys know? Is it based on other material, comic books or something like that?
I don't know.
Because I think they're kind of going for a very kind of comic book feel. There's very strong colors in the lighting, and it's very interesting. So if you're in the mood for just kind of an entertaining shoot 'em up type film, I would definitely recommend John Wick.
All right, Trev.
I've got 2 recommendations. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, that's
Can I
fine.
do 2?
Well,
Make them quick.
Since you're not on all the time, I guess.
Got to
So,
make up for lost time.
Yeah. So the first one I want to recommend, I watched on Halloween. It Follows. Great film. It's by what's the guy's name? David Robert something.
Mitchell.
Yeah. I don't know what else he's done, but this was a great film. I don't want to spoil anything. Just check it out. If you're into thrillers, like this is it does what Hollywood films haven't done in years in terms of thriller. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat. It's very good. Highly recommend. My other recommendation is Ex Machina. Came out earlier this year. I'd say probably the best sci-fi film that's come out this year.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you let me borrow it. I still haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think is that the one? I think I recommended that one like last month or the month.
I
before,
believe you
something
did.
like that.
You did.
And I agree completely.
They're both great. Yeah.
It's, I haven't seen It Follows yet, but Ex Machina was very, very interesting, very entertaining.
Yeah, I watched on your recommendation, Gabe. It was great.
Thanks.
that was sincere, you dicks.
By the way, Trevor, you should put a new battery in your smoke detector.
Oh man.
Thanks,
Why?
Trev. Well, I keep hearing it beep. Unless it's not you, it's someone else. But I keep hearing a beep. All right.
What that is?
Well, last month I have 2 recommendations this month, but this the first one is see, there it goes.
Yeah, I heard it.
It's not me. I don't think.
The first one is a makeup for last month because I really didn't have anything horror. I was actually waiting for this series to start, and some of you don't know. Well, most of you don't know. At my wedding, our sign-in, our guest book was a oil painting by a friend of ours that was a. It looked like that. See, there it went again.
It's not me.
It looked like Army of Darkness, but instead it was me holding flowers and Amanda at my side, and it was it's called Till Death Do Us Part. So I've always loved the Evil Dead films, especially Army of Darkness. And Starz recently started airing Ash versus Evil Dead, and I watched the first episode the other night and absolutely loved it. If you guys have Starz, or if you have any way of seeing Ash versus Evil Dead, watch it. There are definitely some hero horror aspects to it, but also the comedy that Ash, Bruce Campbell, brings to it, which just adds even more to the entertainment value of the series. So catch Ash versus Evil Dead. That totally replaces my recommendation for The Martian, which is still a good film, but it's not a horror film or thriller. And since this month we celebrate Veterans Day on the 11th, I want to recommend a film that has both stars from the movies we talked about tonight, Tom Hanks and Matt Damon. And I'm guessing most of you have seen it. It's from 1998, Saving Private Ryan, a film that makes me sick to my stomach at times, but brings tears to my eyes 2 minutes later. It is by far one of my favorite war films, and probably one of my favorite human films of all time. Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, Tom Sizemore. I mean, this entire cast, this entire crew made, in my opinion, a masterpiece that honors the memories of those veterans that fought in World War II. So if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, check out Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. That's one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion. And I was very disappointed with the Oscars that year. It should have been best film, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I believe it was Shakespeare in Love that won Best Picture that year.
It was.
And I don't take anything away from that film. It was a great film, but it was nothing like the epic experience of Saving Private Ryan.
I remember watching that for the first time, and the opening of that film just made me shudder. It made me cry. It gave me everything, all the emotions within those first few minutes. It was absolutely amazing. And then the story, and when you get to know these guys, and it's beautiful. It's a great film, and I think it really does honor. Although the town's fictional, most of the cast is all fictional. It's still a beautiful story that is trying to pay an homage to the brave souls that stormed that beach that day. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to where people can, find you, track you down, maybe, I don't know, do things with you or to you or for you. Let's start with Tom.
People can find me on the roof of the Des Moines Library reading books about movies. Just like follow the smell of scotch. I'm up there, just chilling in the garden, usually after they close. But
drinking scotch, reading Danny Boyle's Canada.
That's right. Yeah, little Truffaut Hitchcock. It's great. It's the life. So I'll be there tomorrow night.
Man, you guys are making me want scotch.
Oh, it's good. It's your friend. Go ahead, Gabe.
You can find me on Facebook. You can find our 48-hour films on YouTube. Our team name is One Genome Short, and that's also the name of our channel. And you can also find us at onegenomeshort.com. And again, like I've said for, I don't know, what is it, almost 6 years now? 5 years. It's a work in progress. But there's movies there.
All right, Sam.
I will actually be at the library guarding the door for Tom to make sure that he doesn't get arrested because he does have a family. And like he says, no one likes to see a guy with a family get in trouble. So,
Thanks,
I'm going to keep him on the up and up, and also maybe learn a thing or two about books and film. So I'm excited about that.
Thanks.
Oh, was there something else you wanted to mention, Sam?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, because I'll be up on the rooftop at the library.
Well, and that's very good. That's a very, very good tie.
Segue. Yeah.
It is the crazy microphones to go with it. An independent feature film that Mike and I were a part of in February and into March, called Up on the Rooftop, will be premiering in Cedar Rapids, and actually will go wide distribution on Amazon on the 7th, I believe, is when it starts shipping. You can actually pre-order copies now. It's a great family film. It's a talking dog movie. Might not be your thing, but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really talented Iowa filmmakers that made this short film this feature-length film in 14 days. And having been the production manager and had a chance to see this project from the beginning when I first got the script from very talented young director Joe Clark, it was just a lot of fun. And that's what I think this movie is going to be. And I look forward to sharing it with my friends and family by getting copies at Amazon.com. And if you're in Iowa and you can, I think they're about sold out at this point for the premiere in Iowa, but it will be available nationwide, starting on Amazon, making its way to Netflix eventually, and they'll have lots of time to see it. So if you're a fan of the show and want to see some of the work that we do, Mike was a cinematographer on this piece, so you can see some of his great work and just the work of some very talented Iowans, and also Mr. Belding from Saved by the Bell. What else, Mike? What else would you say, Mike?
They always say, and I don't know if we've ever discussed this, but they always say, W.C. Fields always said, don't work with children and don't work with animals, and we did both. Mm-hmm. And from the rough cut that I saw and the few other scenes that I watched, I am very pleased. I think Joe is a great writer and director. He knows his stuff. He has this little take on the world that he makes his own, and I think you'll enjoy it. I mean, it's called Up on the Rooftop, and it's meant for kids, but there's some adult humor in there that the parents will love as well, that should go over the kids' heads. But it was a blast working on. It was great to work with Sam again. It was great to be behind the camera for. And I believe it's also going to be available on iTunes.
Yep.
Is it at one point going to be in Redbox? And also, I've only heard, I have not confirmed, but also Walmart.
Yeah, I think that may come after the initial release.
Okay.
I think for this actual holiday season, the best would be a digital download,
right? Or
to order a hard copy at Amazon.com.
At Amazon, all right.
And Mike, you said you saw a rough cut.
Yes. All puns intended. It was also shot on Blackmagic production camera, 2.5K, which is owned by Trevor.
I was going to say,
yeah, that's Trevor's camera. We might as well.
Am I in the credits as a special thanks?
I would hope so.
I think I paid them not to mention you.
Okay.
That's my biggest worry, is that we'll be sitting there with these people and their name won't be in the credits, and they're like, "Why am I not in the credit?" At least at this point, I'm like, "Hey, I had nothing to do with that."
So yeah,
it'll be a lot of fun. So
I'm sorry that voice you just used, Sam. Did Harvey Fierstein do something that was supposed to be in the movie?
No, you don't see Harvey Fierstein. Credits. No, that was just my voice on set to keep everything. People respond really well to Harvey Fierstein.
Authoritative voice.
Come on, everybody, we're gonna set up for another take.
For that,
Let's out. It's a family film, okay? Let's get ready.
for those 2 weeks, he kept calling me David, and I couldn't figure out why.
Oh my god.
Trevor, where can people find you?
Well, thanks for asking. So you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/tzook. It would have been regular /Zook, but I think the creator of Facebook owns that for some reason. I mean, it's not even like it's his last name. You can also find me on Twitter. I guess I have a Twitter account. I have an Instagram account at the Real Zook, and I'm on Twitch. I've got a couple Twitch channels, YouTube, all over the place.
Don't you have Vimeo?
Oh yeah, Vimeo too.
Yeah, see, there you go.
All over.
All over the place.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter. You can also view our films on YouTube. Just search Southsider Studios. And we would appreciate it if you could leave us, Cinesmack, a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com, which I actually did check today. We haven't had any emails, which is kind of sad. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. Hey, you know what? I've been blaming everyone else, and that is my smoke detector that is going off. So, have at thee. For December, we had to think outside the gift box for our 5th anniversary show. Join us as In Bruges takes on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah.
This is going to be epic, boys. So for Gabe, Tom, Sam, Trevor, and myself,
Hi.
thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Was the best part.
That's perfect.
You could have played that. That's awesome.
Oh, shit.
And the Academy Award for Best Smoke Detector goes to... Well done. That was perfect.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.